Hey gang, Patrick here, enjoying the sounds of summer. And today we're going to talk about
My manga haul.
on GAIJINGUY. Hey gang, Patrick here. I'm just going to jump into this manga haul. This is actually 2 trips to the Manyu Shoten used comic book store that is now closed. It closed last month, and me and Sparky are both very sad, aren't we, Sparky? Yes, we are. Yeah, that's what I thought. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of zoom through. We're gonna take a little peek, and well, let's just jump in. Let's just do it. That's what I say. So I, like a fool, accidentally bought 2 of the same damn one. So I don't do that often, but sometimes it happens. Come on, it's happened to you. You know it has. So anyway, this is volume 2 of Shonen Hurricane, Hurricane Boy by Horie Taku. And Horie Taku worked for Tatsunoko. He did a great cowboy / ninja comic that I'd love to get into sometime. This is an adventure comic, obviously. This was in Bokura magazine. It was a monthly magazine from Kodansha, 1967. Apparently, he made this as kind of a remake of his earlier series, Hammer Kid, a related Tatsunoko artist we talked about before in my last haul, Mochizuki Mikiya. In the last haul, I showed you Kennedy Knights. This is actually before Kennedy Knights. So he went from this to Kennedy Knights to Wild 7 and just hit after hit. He's also one of the Tatsunoko crowd. This is basically a spy deal, spy story. You can tell from the fedoras and the snazzy jackets that it's got to be spies, and sunglasses, of course. So Shonen Tante J.A. Good stuff, eh? Moving right along, we have Shin Gegege no Kitaro. New Gegege no Kitaro, but actually, I'm not sure this is actually new stuff because it says it's a collection. And this is a collection of UFO stories. So you got flying saucers and stuff, aliens, and such. Again, always great detail, directed by MIZUKI Shigeru and MIZUKI Pro and his band of merry assistants. You know, I'm sure I have a lot of these stories in the last haul that I got, but I really need to do some kind of guide to all the different versions of Kitaro because there's a ton. It's kind of confusing if you want to know where to start reading, so I myself don't know where to start. So I'm going to probably investigate that in a future video. Moving on, we have Tezuka, and Tezuka. So these are the Tezuka books I got. I got this one, Ma-chan's Diary. This is often considered Tezuka's pro debut. It's all like 4-panel or short panel comics. It also has some other stuff that he worked on. Apparently, this was not, when this was released, only people in Osaka and like Tomiyama Prefecture, Ishikawa Prefecture, and as far south as maybe Shikoku, so not Kyushu. So not a lot of people were able to see Tezuka's first works. There's some other interesting trivia about this. When they first introduced Tezuka, they read his pen name wrong. He was writing as Tezuka Osamu, but they introduced him as Tezuka Harumushi, which is strange. And then later, he wrote himself next to the kanji Tezuka Osamu. So this is pre-Tezuka Osamu. But he was not Harumushi. That was a mistake. Another interesting trivia. In my last haul, you saw Fuku-chan. You also saw this same artist, Yokoyama Ryuichi. You saw his work in the Shonen Sunday first magazine video that I did last time. His character, Fuku-chan, super popular, actually made a crossover into this. And so that's kind of weird, right? It's kind of new. Crossover we tend to think of as an American comics kind of thing and rarely see it in Japanese comics. But here we have, this is like 1947, you know, it's even pre-New Treasure Island and already we've got crossovers. So this is Age of Adventure, and I love these because they always have the English summary right at the beginning, just to, before I jump in, I can get a kind of an idea. And they also have these great atogaki, you know, these kind of commentary by Tezuka in the back, and I always learn a lot from those. So this is from 1951, and it ran for about 2 years in Boken-o, Adventure King, which is a magazine from Akita Shoten. It started off just as like a Western. Ooh, that's creepy. Death Valley. Or Death Valley. It started off as a Western. The first half is Western. And then the editor asked him to expand the story. And so it started to travel all over the world. Some famous Western heroes, Wild Bill Hickok, etc. are featured. Even the Count of Monte Cristo is featured in this one. So that's another somewhat early work. Interesting. So it's only 4 years after New Treasure Island, and already you can see his style is started to evolve quite a bit. Then we have Lemon Kid. I got this also, just like for the reason I got this, because it's a Western, and I do research on cowboys and such in Japanese comics, and so I wanted to get this one. Lemon Kid is the good guy, the bad guy, Melon Kid. So this is from 1953, so we're still talking quite early. This is The Film Lives On. Main character, Miyamoto Musashi, just happens to have the same name. Not really related. He's from the country. He's got a pet horse who he loves. This kid actually comes to the city because he wants to be an animator. And so he comes out to the city thinking it's going to be a breeze because he's like this awesome artist. And this is apparently echoes a little bit of Tezuka's own experience. And basically they tell him, you know, you got a lot to learn, kid. And when he's actually got his stuff together and he's got a good film, the Yakuza come in and screw it all up for him. But he's inspired by memories of his faithful horse, and so he takes another crack at it, doesn't give up. So that's, this is from 1958, and it was in the Chugaku Ichinen course, Chugaku Ninen course. It was in those magazines, which were educational magazines for kids around the age that they're saying, which is middle school, first grade, middle school, second grade, what we would call 7th or 8th grade. So a little bit more mature stuff. You've got Yakuza destroying a kid's dreams. So maybe not for everybody. But it's a short work. But it's considered one of the first works to deal with how to make animation in comic form. So interesting. That's why I wanted to pick that up. Okay, let's continue with the Tokiwaso theme. Big guy here. This Fujiko Fujio, the pair. I got other volumes of this before, so I saw that they had number 2, picked it up, got that. Working on this, you have AKATSUKA Fujio, and you also have ISHINOMORI Shotaro. They've showed up in this, so that's interesting. Let's look at the AKATSUKA books I got. All right. Tensai Bakabon, probably one of AKATSUKA Fujio's most famous works. It's pretty funny. I've kept this in the restroom and have laughed out loud. And it's always creepy to hear somebody laughing out loud from the restroom, let me tell you. So that's a good one. I was glad to get that. I think I have the first volume somewhere. Let's see what else we got. I'm going to put you in order because that's how I roll. This is Retsuragon. Retsuragon, which is kind of a joke of messed up English. Let's go. But Retsura, ra making it plural, like, you know, us, let us go. But go, instead of go, it's gong, which is kind of a medieval name, which is often used. So this is number 4. I don't have any other of these. This phrase became a popular phrase among people from a little bit earlier than my era, but I still hear it sometimes. I've heard it years and years before I ever knew about this title, Retsurago, and I think I've actually been guilty of saying it a few times myself. But what you gonna do? What can you do? Okay, this is Ochan. Ochan is another way to say Oji-san, or older dude, uncle. Sometimes it's translated as, but it's basically, you know, you start as a kid and then you're like Oni-san, which is like, hey bro, and then you're like, hey old man, and that's Ochan. So Ochan is, you've got Ochan and Bochan, which is kind of a froggy. I think this is Ochan and Bochan, and they're kind of a combi, a duo of troublemakers. And his style is basically to start with normality, and then things slowly start to go off the rails until a crazy ass ending. So there's a lot of surrealism. It's pretty funky. So anyway, I was actually given these. I was actually given these 3 by the guy at the counter. He said, I thought you might like these, so please enjoy. And I'm like, yes, thank you, sir. Enjoy them. I will. All right, next on the Tokiwaso train, we've got Ishinomori Shotaro. And you can tell that it's a little bit early Ishinomori, you know, not that early. Kaiki Hunter. I like this for a couple reasons. I like just the word kaiki, strange, bizarre, weird. Weird with a Y almost, you know? So it's like Kolchak, the Night Stalker, you know? This is a kid who travels the world looking for strange things to blow the shit out of. And he's got his dad's captain hat, so there's some daddy things going on. And anything with a rat guy, you know, I love rat guys because for years I used a rat as kind of my mascot, and I still kind of do. This very first story is about a million-year-old queen. That's the name of the million years. Come on. We haven't even been around for a million years. But anyway. What else we got? From Ishinomori Shotaro, we've got Sabuto Ichi's Detective Stories. This is from 1966, ran in Sunday, and eventually was moved to Big Comic. So Shogakukan's book for older readers. The style itself, a lot more realistic than his stuff in the past. So it's a different flavor than what we have in other books. It's basically Sabu, the young apprentice to the blind master swordsman Ichi, which reminiscent of Zato Ichi, the blind swordsman. Ichi is apparently a rank of masseuse, not a high rank, like the lowest rank. So maybe he's not the best masseuse in the world, but he's a master swordsman. And Sabu is his do-gooding apprentice, and they wander the country righting wrongs. Do-gooders. And I love this hardback format, okay? I love this hardback format because Shogakukan gives us these ribbons to act as bookmarks. I mean, that shows a respect and love for books in my book, you know? So, loving those. What do we got next? Let's see. Let's look at Dynamite Pro. Dynamite Pro, you know, Nagaigo's production company. Dynamite Pro. I've got these two. Well, this is Dokyun Ippatsu Atari-kun. Ippatsu Atari is like, you know, one shot, doesn't miss. Dokyun is the sound effect of the gun going off. If you watched my last video, you know that a boy can't live without his guns, you know? So this is a very strange comedy gag series by Makimura Tadashi and Dynamic Pro, which is Nagaigo's production company. You can see the similarity with Nagaigo's characters. It's the story of this cowardly boy who, with the sunglasses and the gun, when he has those on, suddenly he's a super badass and just shooting left and right, everything in his way. But it's silly, so why not? Why not, I say. Now this is crazy. Well, maybe it's not that crazy, but this is, it says original story Nagaigo, and then art by Hiruta Mitsuru. So this guy's also a Dynamic Pro guy. This is N Comics. So what this is, it's not the manga version of Devilman. This is the manga version of the anime Devilman. And so the design is completely different. And I'm guessing, even though there's a lot of action lines going crazy in here, I'm still guessing it's more tame than the Nagaigo manga version, because that version is harsh as F, if you know what I mean. The ending of the original Devilman manga is, if you like the animated show, you do not want to read it, I'm telling you, because it will break your heart. So anyway, I didn't even know this existed. Happy to have it in my collection. Let's look at some Leiji, Matsumoto Leiji, all right? So this is Wadachi. Wadachi is another story that he is kind of set in a very tiny apartment, but somehow it's also a science fiction story. So I did notice when I was flipping through here, a big, you know, you've got the Matsumoto dials. You know, once you have that, you know you're in a good story. You've got the big ship, which, you know, futuristic and still, you know, anachronistic. Still got the old-fashioned kind of shape, but also made futuristic. So I'm a big collector of this guy, but I don't focus on it. It's just when stuff comes my way, I jump on it. And so I got these. Well, that's it. Also, and you're not going to believe this, but like I've never owned the whole Queen Millennium story. Never owned it. I've always come across like I have like one volume of the comic, and I have one volume of the anime comic, but this gives me the whole story. Apparently, and I did not know this, apparently it's exactly 1,000 pages long, and it was running in Sankei Shimbun, a newspaper, one page at a time, from 1980 to 1983. I think that's pretty cool. So it's it's 1,000 episodes, right? So that's pretty cool. Every day, except for I believe Sunday. So anyway, happy to have this. The Queen herself is apparently the mother of Meiteru from Galaxy Express 999. I think some of that is made a little bit clearer in animated stories, but anyway, this will go great on my shelf next to my Harlock, my Galaxy Express, my Queen Emeraldus, my DNA, Danaciders, and all the other Leiji stuff that I've got. So happy to have those. What else we got? We have the pumpkin wine, the kabocha wine, and I watched the first episode of the anime based on this, and it's a very cute, very 80s series, and I liked the combination of the very short dude and the big tall girlfriend. Her nickname is L because she's large, which kind of mean his name is Shunsuke, but if you're wearing an S next to a girl who's twice your size, wearing an L, everybody's going to think that stands for small. So maybe rethink it. I don't know. Use your last name. I don't know. What do you think? This is by Miura Mitsuru. And I think, I had never heard of this. I'd never heard of him. But apparently it was super popular. 95 episode animated show. How come my anime peeps didn't tell me about this? I have no idea. But there you go. There you go. What you gonna do? Well, when somebody recommends it to you, buy it. That's what you're gonna do. This is Hikaru Kaze. I already own this in digital. I haven't finished reading it. I've started it. It's supposed to be related to the Minamata disease that in the 70s was a huge problem here in Kumamoto, in the Minamata area. It's taught still in elementary schools as a cautionary tale of industrial abuse of, the land. And so it's a bit controversial. Apparently it ended before the story reached a natural conclusion. There were a lot of conspiracy theories about why it ended. Did Kodansha tell them no more once they figured out what it was about? Or was it something else? Was there other pressure? The author himself says it was his own decision to end it, but a lot of fans are not convinced. So that's just interesting to know. But I wanted to get that. I wanted to get this because I'd been thinking about the Minamata disease. A friend of mine, Sean Michael Wilson, award-winning manga creator, he recently put out a book about the Minamata disease. So I would love it if everybody checked that out. This is The Fish of the Galaxy by Yamada Mineko. And apparently she was really into science fiction. She's retired now. And she started in Kashihon, but she was right there at the tail end. And then she was brought into magazines. You know, her art is the kind of the typical late 70s girl comics art, but she has her own kind of style of eyes, which is I think how most of shoujo creators differentiate, is how they style their eyes. This is from the Saishu Senso, the End War, the war to end all wars, I suppose. It's supposedly like a sprawling science fiction saga. This is number 3. I got it thinking maybe there would be a reference to Space Mermaids, because Fish of the Galaxy. No, it didn't. But I was interested to learn about her. So, yeah, got that. This is Variation Henso Kyoku number 2 by Takemiya Keiko. I had number 1 and I saw number 2, so I got it. Now, this is something interesting about this. This says Takemiya Keiko and it doesn't list anyone else, but actually there was a writer for this, and it was a friend of hers back when she was living with Hagiomoto. The friend of hers later came out and said that actually they worked on it together. I think now they put both names on there. And the reason that they hid her involvement at the beginning is because actually the writer was afraid it would sully Takemiya's reputation if people thought that she couldn't write her own story. So that's one reason that's friendship. No? No. Let's see. Let's move on. Shirato Sanpei. So this is another Shogakukan hardback. Shijima is the title, but it's actually a collection of several ninja stories that were published, some in Kashihon form, some in monthly magazine form. So it's a bunch of short ninja stories, and has some which I've read, which I really like Kamikakushi, that's a good one. Okite, this is a great tale of revenge. Very interesting stuff. I recommend this. I recommend the whole series. Kamuiden, this is the very first comic that I bought. I was 15 years old. Wasn't this version. Shirato Sanpei has been an inspiration for me, and actually inspired my initial manga style back when I was in high school. I was 15 years old when I first bought Kamuiden. These were cheap. I want to get the whole series eventually. I don't have the whole series, so this is my start of getting this series again. Yep. So, but yeah, Kamuiden, of course, the story of an outlaw ninja, a guy who breaks from the tradition and so is constantly on the run. It's also, he travels all around and can't help but getting involved in people's stuff, helping people out. One thing I wanted to mention, I have this hidden here. This is Kumamoto movie diary or movie journal, movie log. And it basically like introduces movies that are about to come out. And whoever had this, they were circling the movies they were interested in. I got it because of this ad on the back for Bishonen Sake. So Bishonen is the first local sake that I ever drank. I was 20. I was working in Atlanta at a Japanese restaurant, and I thought it was amazing. It tasted so much better than the restaurant sake, that most Japanese restaurants had at the time. So I really liked it. Had no idea it was from Kumamoto. Where I live now in Kumamoto, that's Kumamoto Castle. It was actually produced not too far from here. Now the reason this is here, next to my Matsumoto Leiji stuff, is because this guy, Matsumoto, basically he used the name Bishonen for sake in Galaxy Express, the animation, and the Captain Harlock animation. And when I got a chance to talk to Matsumoto in person, I asked him about this. And he said that he thought up the name by himself. It was pure coincidence. But when he was driving through Kyushu, he saw an ad for Bishonen sake, and he went, "Oh no, that is bad." So he wrote them a letter and said, "I truly apologize for using your name without your permission." And they sent the production company like cases of Bishonen sake. And apparently while they were making those animation, they were drunk off their ass drinking it. And so I got a nice little story out of Matsumoto Leiji, which I hadn't heard before. And it's just another connection to Kumamoto for me, this particular sake. So I wanted to mention that before I get into the other stuff. Here's 3 books from the Manga Nihon no Koten. So Japanese classics. These actually like from 1996. And it's got all these great famous creators working on Japanese literary classics like Kojiki, the Konjaku Monogatari, the Tales of Now and the Past, or something like this. Kaidan, Lafcadio Hearn, Patrick Lafcadio Hearn. Also Kumamoto connection, because Lafcadio Hearn lived in Kumamoto, taught at what eventually would be Kumamoto University, and he was replaced when he moved away by Natsume Soseki. Natsume Soseki, whose grandson is a manga scholar and who I had the pleasure to meet a few years ago in Kumamoto at the Manga Gakkai. So, very interesting series. Very problematic image here where this man looks like he's trying to finger a big daikon. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting series to look at. Of course, these are not all the stories that are in these books. They're selected. So maybe a good introduction to these classics. There's another ISHINOMORI Shotaro, MIZUKI Shigeru, which we have over there, and Tsunada Jiro, another Tokiwaso guy, though he didn't live there, visited, and a big horror guy. He's well known for popularizing occult comics. So, and there's apparently 32 of these. This is the last one. This is the first one. That is the 8th one. Speaking of literary classics, we've got A Study in Scarlet. And this is, I saw the Ishinomori Shotaro name on there, and I thought, oh, okay. Ishinomori does Sherlock Holmes, but it was not him. He probably did the layouts. He said he's the director of the project, the Kumon Manga Library. And so, wasn't what I expected. Still though, art looks pretty solid. So, and it's one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes stories, which I have a reason for that. My father actually did a play treatment of this. My biological father did a play treatment of this, and he got mentioned in a book about Sherlock Holmes in America. And thanks to that book, I got into vintage comic strips. So all kinds of connections happening here in my collection today. Okay, I had a comment before. Are you ever going to do Tsuge Yoshiharu Kashihon works? And when I walked into the Manyu Shoten for the last time, the guy at the counter said, this just came in. Do you want it? And I said, yes, I do. Thank you very much. And so I got it. And this 1958 work also, much like Shirato Sanpei's, deals with the poor class having to survive under the Bakumatsu government. It's called Bakumatsu Fuunden. I'm not exactly sure how this translates, but it's like Bakumatsu stories of wind and clouds, which I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, but I'm glad to see this early tsuge. It's pretty solid, actually, you know, art-wise and layout-wise. The action stuff is really good, so really happy to add that to my collection. So in another fukoku or reprint, I got these two freebies by Yokoyama Mitsuteru. They weren't that cheap, but apparently these were like freemiums. They came with some other premium Yokoyama collection, and somebody just sold off this part. Apparently they didn't want these, but I want them, so I got them because they're short, early Yokoyama stories, both period pieces, the Song of a Thousand Cranes, and Adventures of Robin Hood. So I like having this early Mitsuteru. Actually, when I look at early Mitsuteru, I see a connection between how he does his eyes and early Shirato Sanpei too. So now this next book is something I've had my eye on for several months, but the price was prohibitive, so I didn't get it. Okay, it's Kyofu Dai Kaibutsu. In other words, it's like it's this teeny tiny book of world monsters. The art is fantastic. You know, it's just fantastic. Some great stuff. They really love the Oliver Reed type werewolf, don't they? Koga Shinichi, he loves the Oliver Reed type werewolf. I'm gonna have to say Lon Chaney Jr. is still my favorite werewolf. But anyway, the art is fantastic. A lot of world monsters here. There's a creepy one. So a lot of good stuff. Very interesting. And since I got it half off, I felt comfortable purchasing it because it was much more than the original price. Let me just put it that way. It was quite expensive. All right. So this is one set of, I'm just going to pull out one. Monthly Superman. You know, I said I was just going to pull out one. I'm actually going to pull out another one. Okay, so what I like about these monthly Supermans, they started publishing them in 1978. In each one, they have these interviews. So Yokoyama Mitsuteru, talked about him before. They'll have an interview like what Superman means to me. And so in the very early issues, you have Tezuka and so forth, and they mention how Superman was an influence. So this is a really good one. It has a lot of Neil Adams art. It's got stuff from the movie. Every month this came out using the original art. They did not translate the sound effects, but they had, so here's a good one. Azuma Hideo, Watashi to Superman. Yeah, so that's a good one. That's actually not the one that I was gonna brag about. It's this one. This one. Otomo Katsuhiro, the mastermind behind Akira. So that's a good one to have, right? So really happy to get a set of these. They were 50% off. So hard to say no, right? Hard to say no. And so I got a whole chunk of these from 16 down to 24. So that's a pretty good deal. I already have about 5 of these. So there's still a lot of holes, but I got a good chunk of them, all right? And I actually want to skip to the Ryu at the end. I want to skip past these and just do, this is Puffu. Puffu was a magazine specifically for hardcore comic fans. A lot of comic fans found out about different manga through this magazine. I actually met a guy who used to write for this magazine. We met in Las Vegas when he interviewed me about my client Sakuraba Kazushi, MMA legend. So I picked this one up. I don't have any issues of this. I felt I would like to have some issues of this. It was this here, Toy commercial. And Toy is one of my favorite series from the old Shonen Sunday back in the 80s. That's Toy right there. And Aikawa Yoji, who's based on the singer Kikawa Koji. And it was just these 2 pages. And so, okay, whatever. I was hoping for a little bit more involved article, but there is a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of good stuff in here. I'm gonna have to take my time pouring over it because these can be quite dense. So I was happy to get a copy of that. I picked up, they had a bunch of these, but I picked up a few animages. I got Ideon, you know, because that was like the first MOOC I ever bought was an Ideon MOOC. And it took me like a half hour to decide to get it. But it had a lot of different character designs, which I copied in my early art attempts back in high school. And so I have a soft spot in my heart for Ideon. I've actually made the model a couple times. So I got that. Over on this side, this Animage, I got this because it has a couple of different series. Galaxy Express 999, Gatchaman, Saraba Uchu Senkai Yamato, you know, so a lot of the series that were perfectly in my wheelhouse at the time. So I wanted to get those. I got them. I'm not planning on collecting a lot of Animage in the future, but here's a magazine I really need to think about because, okay, this is SF Comics Ryu, like dragon. So it's kind of like a science fiction / fantasy type of deal. Yamada Miniko, who I mentioned, she is often published in these. You've got the Gundam guy, Yasuhiko Yoshikazu, who his comic Arion in there. And see, there's Yamada Miniko mentioned right there. But there's something else I found in this first issue here. It's not the first issue ever published. It's volume 11, number 5 of that year. And I mean, there's some great stuff in here. First of all, stickers. I love stickers. You have some Azuma Hideo fold out poster. So it's pretty cool, not too pervy. Well, a little pervy. This fold out, this is interesting. This is basically what? Science fiction book covers, which I can't seem to open the damn thing. There we go. Well, science fiction book covers of some classic some classic stories. I think my friend on Instagram, Bury Me in Books, I think he's gonna love these. So I'm gonna probably have to take an Instagram of that myself. So we've got Azuma Hideo, of course. We've got Arion. We've got Monkey Punch, right? Monkey Punch is becoming a regular on the GAIJINGUY YouTube channel. Who else we got? I think this is Locke the Superman artist. I'm pretty sure it is. I recognize that name. So just really dense, really great stuff. You know, like I'm not doing a read through all of these, but I just want you to know there's some great stuff in here. And especially I found one particular thing which blew me away. Okay, so here's a little bit of Cagliostro comics, right? The Miyazaki Monkey Punch crossover here. This is definitely Miyazaki style. So did they mention is Miyazaki actually drawing these? I do not know. Just suddenly out of the blue we have this art. I'm guessing it's not Miyazaki. We got some mechanics. I'm not the super mechanic guy. There's Yamada Miniko, who I mentioned. Still haven't got to the big reveal, okay? If you guys are in the know, I think you're going to enjoy this. Am I building up the tension too much? More Azuma Hideo. Ishikawa Ken, Dynamic Pro, right? That's pretty exciting. Still not what I'm alluding to here. Anticipation. Look, article on Shibata Masahiro. This guy is one of my favorites. I have not gone to town on him on this series yet, but you can expect it because he's amazing. And he's created one of my favorite characters that I'm just recently found. You know, I'm still new to him. So, ISHINOMORI Shotaro. Armageddon, right? I mean, come on. This is pretty amazing stuff. Still not what I'm talking about. Okay, when is he gonna get to it? You're asking yourself. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to get there. Okay, here we are. Okay. Animaru Tachi. The animals by, who does that say? Mochizuki Minetaro. Mochizuki Minetaro of Dragon Head and Zashiki Onna fame. Zashiki Onna was one of the creepiest comics I read when I was living by myself, about a guy who's living by himself and being stalked by a crazy lady. Well, this is here. This is what's going to blow your mind. Okay, here's the introduction down here. Mochizuki Minetaro Shokai. Okay, it's introducing him. He's from Yokohama. He's a high school student, 17 years old. He likes Otomo Kazuhiro. He wants to draw science fiction. And he has a special talent. He can name every kind of merchandise available from one specific cosmetics company. I have no idea what that's about. So I was just excited out of my, gourd. I love Mochizuki Minetaro. I just love his stuff. I think he's awesome. And so just by pure coincidence, running into this magazine and finding out as I was flipping through it for this video that a very early story was in here just made my day. So guys, this is the haul. So that's it. Thanks for joining me on this trip through my collection, the new additions to my collection. I have to say, the last day I went, when it was 50% off, I went to the counter, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I had him ring up stuff again 3 times. That's when you know you've got a disease. But you know what? I'm loving it. So take care, and I'll see you next time.